exciting World of Geology career webinar brought to you by Women in Geosciences Engineering and NAPE. We've always done this physically before now, a few years back, but with the onset of COVID and the fact that we could go online and reach out to more students like you, we've decided to keep on doing this annually. We are doing this as a way of inspiring young students like you to learn about geology early on and know that you have career choices that includes geosciences. So today, let's just get started. We have a wonderful array of panelists. Let me go to our webinar flyer. You can see it's a wonderful session ahead. And on our agenda today, I will do a few introductions and I will soon introduce myself. And we will have our president-elect for NAPE. NAPE means Nigerian Association of Petroleum Explorationists. He's here and he will talk to us. We'll have a safety moment. As geoscience professionals, we always start everything with safety. It's important. And then we'll have a presentation titled A Career in Geosciences that will be delivered by Mrs. Ojelabi. We'll have a wonderful career panelist lined up for you that you will have opportunity to have your questions answered by them. And then I will have some closing out comment. So first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Jumoke Akimpelu. I'm a geoscientist, 18 years experience in the industry. And believe it or not, there was a time that I was like you. I was in secondary school in a place called Bishop Phillips Academy. The school is in Ibadan in Oyo State. And then I went on to Obafemi Awolowo University in Ile-Ife. I had my undergraduate degree in geology. Then I went on to the University of Manchester on an ExxonMobil scholarship. I had my Master's of Science degree in petroleum geoscience. And I've been practicing in the industry, exploration, development, production as a petroleum geologist. I started out at ExxonMobil. Now I'm a petroleum research geologist at Conjugate Basins Tectonics and Hydrocarbon in the US. And I'm also an AAPD visiting geoscientist. What that means is that American Association of Petroleum Geologists, they have this group of geoscientists that is sponsored to go into schools and talk about the wonderful world of geology and talk about the career opportunities in geoscience. So I do that. And for WIGE, Women in Geoscience and Engineering, I am the team lead for Team Inspired and Outreach. That is a team that is bringing you this career webinar session in conjunction with NAPI on behalf of WIGE. So it's wonderful to have you here today, and I'm really looking forward to a wonderful session with you. Okay, and we have our guest speaker in the person of Madam Adedoja Ojelabi F. NAPI. F. NAPI means a fellow of NAPI. This is, one of the highest recognition that you can have as a petroleum geologist practicing in Nigeria. She's been recognized for her work in the industry and her dedication to the geoscience community. She's also the first female NAPE president in Nigeria. Please give it up for Mrs. Ojelabi. And we have the opportunity to have her here today. She's been a geoscientist of 34 years practicing in the industry. And just like you, she was in secondary school at the Federal Government College, Ijaniki, and then she proceeded to University of Jos. She had a BSc Applied Geology and Mining. She started out as a hard rock geologist, but then she moved on to be a petroleum geologist. She started out in Gulf Oil Company, and she decided to have a petroleum geoscience master's degree, and that was at University of Ibadan, which is always good when you want to specialize in a particular field of geology. And then she went back to Chevron, by then Gulf Oil, now Chevron, and then manager now, today, manager Reservoir Management Organization Capability. So she is our guest speaker today. If you know where to do the reaction button, give it up, or you put a clap in the chat for Madam Doja. Thank you, everyone. And our guest of honor, Mr. John Bosco Uche, also a highly regarded fellow of NAPI. Mr. Bosco is a geoscientist with decades of experience in the oil and gas industry. He graduated from Nandi Azikiwe University at Awka, got his degree in geology, and then he went on to the WIGE University in the UK and had his MBA. He has had a lot of experience in multinational oil and gas industry, including Shell, Connell, and Halliburton. And he's held multiple technical and management leadership roles over the years. At present, he is the front-end development manager at SPDC, Shell Petroleum Development Company, commonly known as Shell, and currently is the president-elect of NAPI. What that means is that he's the incoming president of NAPI. Welcome, Mr. Bosco. Mr. John Bosco, we are really happy to have you here. And at this point, I will pause and have our guest of honor say a few words before we proceed.
All right. Thank you very much, Madam Jumoke Akimpelu. And again, well done to yourself and the entire Women and Geoscience and Engineering for excellent job you've been doing for these past years. So I know I showed up in this forum around the COVID time, like you mentioned, 2021 or so. So happy to be back now in a different capacity as the president-elect. So I want to say a few words and to welcome every single one of you on the call. Looking at the number is been increasing, about 47 right now. And what I wanted to say is that for us as a professional body, Nigerian Association of Petroleum Exploration we pride ourselves in terms of preaching and driving that early education, not just for our members, but also pushing it down to the secondary school, which the partnership we're having with WIGE is a demonstration of that drive, and that's exactly what we're doing today. And what it might interest you to know as well that my role as the president-elect, which is actually a statutory role, by the way, the person you're going to be hearing from has already introduced Madam Doja. Also, at some point, was in this capacity as well. Continuing education program is one thing that this position chairs, and again, what we're doing today falls in that realm. Now, we all pass through where you are now, which is the exciting thing. And geology is all about nature. And sometimes, even before I delve into geology, it was a lot of inquisition around what does this really mean? Well, at that time, I didn't have a lot of people I could talk to. But you're privileged that today, in this call, you've got a lot of geoscientists that have passed through exactly what you're going through right now, which you can actually ask any question you can imagine or think of. And I can assure you that you get the answers today. So I really want to welcome you to say the time you're spending this morning or in the afternoon, depending on where you are, is going to be quite valuable. So I would say make the best use of it, concentrate as much as you can, and please, ask the right questions and any question you have in your mind. You've got the best speakers you can imagine in the industry, across all board, both from the senior leaders, Madam Doja, and also the younger emerging leaders that are coming up that are in the panel. So you get the best. So I can only assure you just to make sure you take that moment to make the best out of the time you're spending on this morning. So on that note, I will hand back to you, Madam Jumoke, but I'm also going to be here fully till the end and then come in as may be required. So on that note, back to you, Madam Jumoke.
Thank you so much, Mr. John Bosco. It's a pleasure having you here. And one thing everyone on the call needs to know is that as women in geoscience and engineering, we always appreciate our male advocates that support us as women professionals in this field. So we know we are not alone, and we are grateful for Mr. John Bosco's presence here today. Thank you very much. All right, so let's go on with it. So we'll be having our career panelists after we've had the talk on the career in geoscience presentation. So I just want to introduce them very briefly ahead So you have a flavor of what is coming. So our early career panelists, recently they were in your position just a few years ago. So even though you've heard about people over decades of career, we want to tell you that people who just recently came out of secondary school, just graduated, they are here to talk to you so you can relate with them. So we have Olaitan Kobio. She's a petroleum geoscientist now. We have Mariette Tamba, geologist in the mining industry. She'll tell you all about that. We have Blessing, a trainee geologist at Petroleum Training Institute. Aisha Gambo, a recent geology graduate. I'm sure you want to hear all the exciting things about how what she went through going through geology recently as an undergraduate. And then we have our drone girl, Bridget Adejayon, a drone pilot. I'm sure you want to hear all about how she's using a background in geology to help her as a drone pilot. And maybe you don't know, remote sensing is a branch of geology as well. And she'll tell you all about that. So at this point, we will do safety first, like I said. So, and I want you to tell me in the chat what is wrong with this picture. Please type in the chat. Tell us what is wrong with this picture. Let's have a safety moment. By the way, I have two screens, so sometimes I look on the other side. So can somebody tell us what you see on the screen? What's wrong with this picture? Are they doing something right? Okay, let me describe it for you. Oh, okay, let's look at this area, not the inner core. So I see people painting, but is that the right way to paint inside a swimming pool? They are doing it wrong. Is that a safe way to do it? Yes. Is it yes or no? Yes. Thank you, Maroni. It could die instantly if those people's hands slip off. Yes. Yes. It's not safe to let down a person to pick a substance in a swimming pool. Okay, very good. We have a professional geologist on the call already. So this is what we watch out for and be sure we are doing it safe. So let's not do it that way. Let's do it perfectly. What they should have done was to get the right tools to do the right job. Now let's look at the second one. What do you see? A tilted vehicle and somebody walking under it, propped up with, what is that? That's a stick that can easily fall and the person can get injured. Yes, there are proper tools to do this safely in a mechanic workshop. So this is unsafe, okay? So the lesson is that there's always time to do it right. If you can't do it safely, don't do it. In the oil and gas industry, in every profession, in geology, in mining, hydrogeology, and you hear all about that from Mrs. Ojelabi's presentation shortly. We do everything we do safely. So if you can't do it safely, don't do it, okay? All right, so I am going to stop sharing now and Madam Doja will start her presentation. But while she's coming up, please, I want all the schools that are on the call to please type in the chat and tell us which school is represented here. If you're from a secondary school, please type in the chat. Let us know you are here. Let's recognize your school. Type the name of your school in the chat, please. All right. Atlantic Hall, welcome. Saroja Manwus, welcome. More Atlantic Hall, Trinity International College, welcome. Gilston International Academy, Abuja, welcome. Thank you so much. We are glad you could come. Wow. There's a lot of school represented here. Welcome. All right. Madam Doja, you are ready to go?
Thank you, Madam Jumoke. I'm so pleased to be here. And thank you so much for all the schools that are joining. We see so many, and we would like to acknowledge you at the end of our presentation, and we hope you'll stay with us. So today we are really just, we want to talk about geology. As Madam Jumoke said, for me, geology is exciting. I find it very exciting. I find it, also, I find it rewarding. And I guess maybe my antecedents lend themselves to a career like geology. And we are using this opportunity to reach out to people who have these same skills, these same mindsets, to encourage people. There is a world beyond medicine or law or computer science. Not everybody can be an IT person. Not everybody can be a lawyer. Not everybody can be a medical doctor. So you have interests. So what can you do with those gifts that you have? So one of those things that we would like you to consider is a career in geoscience. So as I speak, I'm just going to quickly run you through what is geology, difference between geology and geography. I'd like to take a pause. Can you see my slide? Madam Jumoke, can you see my slide?
Yes. If you can see
Thank
Madam
you.
Doja's slide, please type in the chat so that it's not just me.
And
Okay.
forgive me if I can't see the chat at this time, but I just rely on Madam Jumoke to uh,
Yes, I
help
am.
out with it.
I have your back. I will.
Thank you. So, what is geology and the difference between geology and geography? Because sometimes there's a little bit of a mix up. Um, and then, you know, what are the job options? So, you go to school, you go to university, you get a degree in geology. So, what can you do with the degree? We'll talk a little bit about the petroleum industry because that's a popular discipline or a branch of geology. And as geoscientists, I'm a petroleum geologist, so I always love to talk about petroleum geology. NAPE is about petroleum geosciences. So forgive me if I'm going to talk more about petroleum geology than maybe another branch of, of geology, because that's what I'm most familiar with. And then we talk a little bit about how we interact with geology at home. You'll be surprised about how many times you do something or you use something that is related to geoscience. And I'm hoping that by the end of this, you'll be able to answer that question yourself that says, is geology the right career for you? And how do you prepare for a career in geology? So let's go. If you have ever wondered and asked yourself, you know, where anything about dinosaurs or what about the earth? Where does the wind come from? Um, how do minerals form? You know, if you love science, if you love to do things that are out of the box, if you love traveling, if you care about your environment, if you also want a job that pays well and is comfortable, you want to travel, you want to explore, you are adventurous, then you need to consider things a career in geology. So I'd like you to pay a little bit of attention. It might interest you what we have to share with you today. So, what is geology? Strictly speaking, geology really is the study of rocks, especially in the subsurface. So it's an earth science, just like geography is an earth science, and there are other things that are sciences. But geology has come to mean the study of rocks. So what's the difference now between geography and geology? Because a lot of the time, people get mixed up with these two terms. Because, like I said before, geography is an earth science, but they both study the earth in different ways. Now, for geography, it deals with the spatial and temporal distribution of the land. Now, what I mean by that is that it studies the physical features of the Earth, the atmosphere, um, how it is affected by man and human activity, and the distribution of population, resources, political and economic activities of man. Geography is divided into physical geography, which studies the interactions between the natural environment, the climate, the soil, water, plants and animals, and landforms. And human geography deals with how human activity affects or is influenced by the Earth's surface. Now, geology, on the other hand, is the science that studies the structure of the Earth and sometimes other planets, because we've had geologists that go to space. They've been to the moon. And so together, it studies the origin of the Earth, the development, how the Earth has developed, how the rocks were formed, what changes the rocks have gone through. So it's really about, through that we know how the Earth moves, how the plates, the continents, how they interact, how they move. And it impacts things such as energy, mineral resources, exploration for hydrocarbons like crude oil, even coal, and water resources. It also deals with natural hazards as well as effective ways that we can predict them or how we can deal with them. And it helps us to understand and mitigate environmental problems like pollution, climate change. So that is a little bit of the difference between geography and geology. So where can a geologist work? There are many, many places that geologists can work outside of the petroleum industry. They work in environment, in government, in finance, in education. We have lecturers that have specialized in different fields of geology. Um, I'm going to give you a few examples of the kinds of specializations in geology a little bit further on. But you can work in minerals, mineral science, you can work in oil and gas, you can work in the environment, you can be an engineering geologist, you can work in the mining industry, you can work in construction, you can work in medical research. Yes, and that's a growing field now, medical geology. You can work in drilling, whether it is drilling for oil or drilling for water. And there's a fun fact about the first trained scientist sent to the moon was actually a geologist, and his name was Harrison Jack Smith. And he discovered the evidence of volcanic activity during a moonwalk on the Apollo 17 mission in 1972. I'm sure not a lot of people actually know that. So essential marketing skills, what are the companies looking for? There are technical skills and there are non-technical skills. So when you're talking about technical skills, is like knowledge, your like book knowledge in geology, petroleum, geology, geophysics, field mapping. That's very, very important as a geoscientist. You have to not only be able to make the maps, you also have to be able to understand the maps that other people have made, because the maps are things that we use to position wells or find outcrops and discover resources. So non-technical skills must be a love for science. You must be professional, you must be organized, you need to be thorough, because if somebody is going to spend a lot of money drilling a well, it's $50 million, $25 million, you need to be sure that you've done due diligence and you've done your work. You have to be enthusiastic. You have to be imaginative, because geology actually there are a lot of concepts in geology that have to do with you thinking out of the box, being imaginative, being able to visualize things that are not there. You're talking about things that have happened millions of years ago, as well as things that are going to happen in the future. So you need to be able to use your imagination. You need to be able to conceptualize. You need to be able to communicate. Communication is very important. You need to be able to communicate in written or oral, in an oral manner. You need to be a problem solver. You need to be a team player. So if you have all of those skills, and please don't don't be so oh, I don't know these things. It's fine. A lot of those skills can be learned. So once you decide that this is a good fit for you, you know what to start preparing yourself for. So an example of what geoscientists are field, for example, is, oh, I can be an engineering geologist. What does an engineering geologist do? They work on site critical facilities like bridges, nuclear power plants, dams. They provide integrity tests for all these infrastructure. If you're going to build a high rise, you really need the services of a geologist to be sure that the soil you're building on has the capacity to bear the load. So it's not just an architect, it's not just an engineer. You also need the services of an engineering geologist. So who else is a geologist? A hydrogeologist, what does he do? Um, they explore for and locate and produce groundwater. So if you want to dig a well, or there's an area where there's no water flowing, you need the services of a hydrogeologist so that you can determine the best site. They do site investigations. They look at fluid flow. They help you locate the aquifer. The aquifer is where the water, the formation that bears water under the ground. They understand where groundwater is. They know how to find it. So instead of wasting a lot of money just drilling in uh, areas and sites that have no aquifer, or the flow is in another direction, or the flow rate is very low, once you talk to a hydrogeologist, they can help you do get the best possible outcome. So water supply and water management, that's the purview of a hydrogeologist. How about mining? Mining geologists, what do? They explore for and they find mineral deposits. And in terms of mineral deposits, we're talking about things like coal, we're talking about minerals, we're talking about metals, we're talking about even petroleum. That is mining, but most of the time when we refer to the mining geologists, we're talking mainly about hard rock or soft rock, not necessarily about the petroleum side. We call those ones petroleum geologists. So we're looking at coal, and Nigeria is blessed with minerals. Well, we have coal in Enugu, and you know that coal can be used for power generation, and it was used for rail transport. And some countries still use coal for power generation. A lot of countries still use coal for power generation. We're not that, it's not that common anymore in Nigeria, because we've moved more towards the hydro electricity as well as gas. But coal was important, or is important, for power generation. Then we have tin, we have tantalum, we have columbite in Jos, in Nasarawa. We have precious stones, we have iron ore in Itape, in Kogi. We have gold in Ilesha and Zamfara and Kebbi. You know, gold can be used for like jewelry, wristwatches, rings. We have bitumen in Lagos, in Ogun. We use bitumen to tar the roads. We know about uranium being a radioactive metal. It is used for nuclear energy. We have also, I'm sure you may have heard about lithium, lithium deposits now. Nigeria has high-grade lithium, and once you have your mobile phones, you know that the batteries in the electric cars, laptops, mobile phones are made from lithium. So Nigeria is blessed, and The mining geologist works with mining engineers to produce these resources safely and effectively. So the environmental geology is the interaction of humans with the environment. And now the environment can be the earth itself, which is the rocks, the sediments, and the fluids, or the surface of the earth and the processes that operate to change the earth over time. So, what does the environmental geologist do? They investigate the environmental conditions to meet regulations. They also work with industries. We're talking about coastal management, oil spills, pollution. They help to manage and mitigate these what could be environmental disasters. So you see the picture there where you see the before and after of air pollution. You see the before and after of an oil spill. These are things that environmental geologists help us to prevent. So a petroleum geologist, what do petroleum geologists do? Simple. They use their knowledge to help locate rocks under the surface where there is a sizable occurrence of oil and gas accumulations. Most of those are found in what we call sedimentary basins around the world. And they work with reservoir engineers and petroleum engineers to produce hydrocarbons safely, economically, and effectively. So, based on their work, they recommend areas where we can drill. So we put drilling rigs, whether it's on the ground, whether it's in water, whether it's in deep water. That is the work of a petroleum geologist. So a little bit about petroleum. Where does this petroleum that we keep talking about, oil and gas, where does it come from? It's really made up of elements of hydrogen, carbon, organic matter like algae, plankton. I would have loved to say dead dinosaurs, but uh, dinosaurs they are organic matter. Anything that and it occurs as in different forms. You can have oil that occurs as gas. You can have, I'm sorry, not oil, but hydrocarbons can occur as gas, they can occur as liquids, and they can occur as solids. And um, the whole range, whether it's gas or liquid or solids, can be produced and give us some form of energy. Now, where do we find oil and gas in Nigeria? Because now let's bring it down home. We find it, like I said before, in what we call a sedimentary basin. Sedimentary basins are like spaces in the earth that it's almost, I can describe it like a bowl where you can deposit things. So it's a basin or an earth created space where you deposit what we call sediments. Now, sediments can be sand, can be organic matter, and Nigeria has 7 of these sedimentary basins. We have in that the picture of Nigeria, you will see number 1 is the Sokoto Basin, number 2 is the Chad Basin. We have the mid Niger or Bida Basin. We have the middle Benue, upper Benue, the lower Benue Basin. We also have the most popular one that we call the Niger Delta. And the Niger Delta actually stretches from the shelf to the shore to the deep water. So where are we prospecting? Right now, we're currently producing from the Niger Delta Basin and the deep water. But we have also made discoveries of oil and gas in the Anambra Basin, the Benue Trough, and the Chad Basin. We're not currently producing from these like we are in the Niger Delta, but we do have discoveries in these places. And one of these recently was what was announced as the Kolmani River. And I'm sure if you're following the news, you may have heard that there's a sizable resource or reserves in the Kolmani River, which is in the upper Benue Trough. So a little bit about exploration and production. Exploration and production is about finding and producing petroleum. And a little bit about the industry. The history is the oil and gas industry is 160 years, more than 160 years old. And the first successful well was drilled in 1859 in Pennsylvania in the US. We're exploring for oil and gas in Nigeria, and it started in the 1930s. But the first commercial discovery was in a place called Oloibiri in Rivers State, more than 68 years ago. So Nigeria has been exploring and producing oil and gas for a very long time. And we are the 15th highest producer of petroleum in the world. So how do we explore and produce hydrocarbon? The first thing is we acquire data. And in doing so, what we do is mainly, there are many steps, but the most common these days is what we call seismic acquisition. We send out sound waves, as you can see from the truck number 1, and then we record and monitor how fast and how quickly those waves get to the surface. We use that to process what we call seismic data, and that is what comes in step 2, and that is interpreting the seismic data. And then step 3, once we do the interpretation and we say, okay, we think that there is a good accumulation, and please don't forget that this is an educated guess. We go to school to learn all these skills. We propose somewhere that we can drill, and then we go ahead and put the drill. We make a discovery, and then we have to produce the oil and the gas. And then once we produce it, we have to ship it. Once you ship it, it goes to what we call the refinery to undergo the process of refining. It is the refined oil, refined material and byproducts that we then use. So what's in a barrel of crude oil? A barrel of crude oil is equivalent of 42 gallons or 160 liters. And from that 1 barrel, you can get 19.5, almost 20 gallons of petrol, the kind of petrol that we use in our cars when we drive. And then there's fuel oil, there's jet fuel, there's kerosene that we use in cooking, there are lubricants that you put in your car engines, and there are other petrochemicals and some other products. And I'm going to give you examples of some of the products that we get from crude oil, and that may surprise some people. Cooking gas is a byproduct or is a product of crude oil. So is the fuel that you put in your generator. And did you know that paint actually is a product of crude oil? And some of our clothes, the clothes we wear, especially the synthetic fibers, come from petroleum. And the petroleum jelly we apply in, and some of the cosmetics we use are products from crude oil. There are materials from crude oil that we find in our telephones, in our computers, in plastics, detergent. So there are even medication. There are so many things that come from that 1 barrel of crude oil. So how do we interact with geology at home? So I'm going to take a minute and pause. This is a picture of a kitchen, and I'd like you to think, what exactly in this picture, given all the things that I've said and some of the examples that I've given, what in this picture can you point to that is related to geology? It might be just, let's give you a hint, rocks, minerals, metals. And please, if you have an idea, just put it in the chat. And Madam Jumoke is going to do me the favor of checking the chat. So I'm going to pause for a minute
Yes.
and say, what can you see in this picture
Yes.
that is related to geology?
Okay.
Anyone?
Okay. So Temitayo said the paint on the wall. Wonderful. The salt and pepper
Excellent.
on the counter. Wonderful.
Excellent.
That is Destiny. Anybody else? Yes. Salt. Atlee said glass
Great.
cups. Kamsi says salt. Esiosa says
Great.
salt on the counter. Emmanuel too says salt. Oluwasegun said aluminum kettle on the table. The phone on the
Excellent.
table. The kettle. Wonderful. We already have geologists ready to go.
Absolutely. And I'm really clapping for all of you. That is brilliant. So let's see. What else have we got there? Our homes are built from rocks. So some people build their homes from clay and they put it up. Is the house you find made of bricks. That is geology because bricks are made from clay. Some are just, you use sandstone to decorate the buildings. Ceramic tiles are from things like silica. All these, um, with the facades of our houses, even the cement that we use to make cement blocks are from gypsum. Those are interactions we have with geology. And glass, somebody was very correct in mentioning that glass is made from the minerals quartz or silica with soda ash and lime. What else? Plastics. We just mentioned that in the picture of what you can get from a barrel of crude oil. What else? All our ceramic glass mugs, ceramic plates, the metals like copper and lead. Some are, you find some of these copper in the ACs in your houses, um, in the pipes, aluminium. We use aluminium to make our trays, plates, food cans, the cans that you of Coke, some of them are made with aluminum and steel also. These are metals and minerals and derivatives from rocks. Cutlery, salt, there are, that's found in rocks. Um, what else? Technology, things, the components that we find in laptops, in your TV, are all related to geology. So our current civilization really requires the provision of metals, minerals from rocks, plastics from oil, and energy in that we use, energy in moving your car, energy in switching the light on, all those, whether it is solar, whether it is geothermal, whether it is wind, whether it's from oil and gas, whether it's from coal, they are all related to geology and geoscience. And the economy of many, many countries, such as Nigeria, they are strongly tied to the production and export of minerals, including hydrocarbon. So, how do you prepare for a geoscience career? Now, let's talk a little bit, especially for people who are in the almost exit classes in secondary school, whether you are in year 11 or you're in year 12 or you are doing your IB or you've done your WIEC or even from the JSS class. It's always great to plan ahead and know, um, think about what your talent is, think about what your strengths are. But first of all, if you're going to be a geoscientist, you must study the STEM subjects, such as maths, physics, chemistry, biology, those are very important because geoscience is a science subject. But you also need to be able to have some sort of a passion, have imagination, um, have powers of observation in addition to studying STEM subjects, because all those are skills, gifts, talents that you add or you need to integrate to your STEM subjects to become a successful geoscientist. Then, once you are at the stage where you have the right subject mix, you identify the course that you want to study. So, we want to go to university to study geoscience. You need to identify the universities that offer geology or geoscience. Then you take the normal tests, whether it is JAM or WIGE or SATs, depending on which year you're in or which exam you need to place in those universities. You need to be aware of the minimum score that you have to attain to be admitted for that course. Different schools have different minimum scores, so we need to be aware of this. Then, if you are done with your first degree, it's always a good idea to go to graduate school if you can, because it is an added advantage. Of course, we know that we have to imbibe good study habits all through your career. And learning is doesn't end when you have your first degree or you have a master's degree. Learning is continuous. All life, you have to learn and keep learning. And the best thing is, of course, you find out what your strengths are, find out what you like doing best, and try and get somebody to pay you for it. That's the best. Okay, so a career is different from school. When you go to school, you go there to study, you go there to learn, and it's short. It's a short term. Is finite. But if you want to have a career, is long term. It's something you work at. It's something you develop. It's something you grow into. You practice it and you contribute to it. So you need to practice. You need to start now and plan ahead and develop not only good study habits, but also good work ethics. Is geology the right career for you? I'm hoping that some of the things I have said are making sense. You are able to connect with some of those things. First, you love science. Now, you may have a different love for different sciences. It doesn't have to be the same. You may like physics more than you like chemistry, or like math more than you like biology. But it's good as long as you have a love for natural things and science, and you can cope with science subjects. You are a creative thinker. You have that never say die spirit. You persevere, you're flexible, you have good work ethics, you're a team player. You have the makings of a geologist. And geology is something you should consider as a career for the next stage of life. Okay, so I'm almost done. I just wanted to put out there to you that the path to a successful career can be rough, it can be smooth, but once you're prepared, success will be the outcome. So I love rocks, and I'm hoping that you do too. So I'd like to acknowledge and appreciate the support and the partnership from the Nigerian Association of Petroleum Explorationists, NAPE, and thank the President-elect very much for his support and coming on this webinar to join and give us the benefit of his experience. We'd also like to thank the AAPG, which is the American Association of Petroleum Geologists, for some of the material that were used in making these slides, as well as the Women in Geosciences and Engineering for the platform to share. And I'd like to do a quick shout out to some of our WIGE women that are on this platform. I saw Mrs. Jumoke Ajayi, Mrs. Pat Marcelli that are on the call. I'm sorry I didn't have the time to catch other names, but if you are on this call and you are WIGE, I'm just saying a very big thank you for joining, and thank you for all the support for this outreach for secondary schools. So I think I'm done, and I'm going to hand it right back to Jumoke.
Yes,
Um,
thank you, Madam.
over
That was
to you.
very exciting. Please, can you do a clap for Madam inside the chat? Please, let's appreciate her. I am excited about geology. Tell me in the chat if you're excited about what you just heard today. And let us know if this is the first time you're hearing about geology. Tell us in the chat. Is this the first time you're hearing about geology? Yes, thank you. We can see you. Thank you. All right. Wow. As a geologist, I wish I had the opportunity when I was in secondary school to hear so much about it, but I'll tell you my story later, how I became a geologist. All right. Please confirm to me you can see my screen, Madam Doja. Okay.
Yeah, we can see your
Yes,
screen.
we can see your screen.
Thank
Thank you.
you. So after the exciting word of geology introduction, would like to thank Madam Doja and would like to thank you for listening. But please stay tuned. We are not done. We still have a wonderful panel for you for discussion. Okay. But on the screen, I'm sure you can see that you can reach us any question you have beyond today. You can send us email at wigeforall@gmail.com, and I can assure you that we will respond. Thank you so much. And let's move on quickly to introducing our panel of discussion, early career panelists. Like I said before, if you didn't join us early on, our early career panelists not so long ago were just like you in secondary school. So we wanted to hear directly from them what their experience has been, what made them decide to go into the field of geology, and what are they doing to get themselves ready for a career in geoscience. And of course, you also hear from veterans like Madam Doja and Mr. John Bosco, Uche, who you heard from before. They've had decades of experience in the industry, and we would like to hear from them as well. So we will start our panel discussion by asking, so I will go to Bridget, but please keep putting your questions in the chat, not in the chat, there's a Q&A portion at the bottom of your screen. So that way your questions are not lost inside all the chat. So there's a dedicated channel for Q&A. Look for it and put it there and we'll pick it up at the right time. Okay? All right. So we will spotlight Bridget, our career panelists. Let's have them spotlight on the screen. We'll have Olaiton, we'll have Bridget, we'll have Blessing and Marietta. But I will go to Bridget first. Bridget is our drone girl. And if you've not heard about drone before, today you'll be hearing about drone from our drone girl. That's what we call her in WIGE. And Bridget, please, as a drone pilot, please tell us how your geology background has helped you to utilize the use of drone technology and remote sensing in your career. How do you solve business and society challenges as a drone pilot with your background in geology?
Thank you very much for this question, Madam Jumoke. Good morning, everyone. I'm sure over 80% of us in this room are Gen Zs. So it's safe to say that this is not your first time hearing the word drone. So if you've seen a drone before or you've flown a drone, please drop your reaction in the chat room. Let me see it. You've seen a drone, you've flown one before. I'm watching out for your comments. Does that mean nobody has seen drones? You've not seen a drone before? Yes, yes, yes. Oh, you have. Oh, that's very nice. Okay.
Somebody
I
said
love
we
what
see
I'm
drones
saying.
at parties. Bridget will tell us more
Thank
about
you
that.
for that. So now you're going to see another part of drones. Okay. Actually, the professional name is called UAV, which means Unmanned Aerial Vehicle. The reason for that name is that the pilot is not on board. So the pilot is on the ground and the aircraft is flying. So drone is more like the nickname. The professional name is UAV. I studied geology in my first degree and I'm a UAV pilot. One of the courses I took during my undergraduate studies is remote sensing and photogeology. Remote sensing is basically you acquiring data without having direct contact with the area. For example, when you control your TV with a remote, you don't have to be close to the TV, the remote to control it. Then photogeology is more about using pictures for geological studies. UAV is a branch of this field. So using UAVs means you are taking pictures for geological studies without being in close contact with the area. So now you can see the connection between my course of study and my career. As a geoscientist, I integrate drone technology to make my work easy. Like they would say, work smart, not hard. So that is what I am doing. So unlike the conventional field mapping techniques, I can, I can look across kilometers of areas with my feet on the ground and acquire data. One of the drones I fly here in Nigeria can go as far as 85 kilometers from the takeoff zone. So I don't have to go into the bush. I don't have to enter the forbidden forest. With my drone, I can acquire data. So in geology, you actually use UAVs for quite a number of things like magnetometer survey. For those of us that are doing physics or for those that have knowledge of magnetic field, the Earth has its magnetic field. And then, some items, some materials also have magnetic properties. So when you carry out magnetic studies using your magnetometer, magnetic survey, using your magnetometer, you can identify objects on the ground, for example, mineral deposits, groundwater, or even relics from the past that you can use for archaeology studies. So, and another thing that is very, very interesting about my career is that it is interdisciplinary. I support engineering projects. I work hand in glove with surveyors. I provide data for facility inspection. We use UAVs for flood mapping. For example, what we experienced in Borno State recently. You use UAVs for crop health analysis. You use it for firefighting. If there's a fire outbreak, you can use drones to go and spray water there. Instead of you waiting for fire trucks, you can use UAVs. You use UAVs for search and rescue. So you can see that I'm not just solving problems for my company. I'm also solving problems in society using UAVs. And my background in geology comes handy, in terms of data processing, data analysis, map making, and report writing. So I'm sure after this webinar, you will start seeing UAV pilots or drone pilots as you probably know them differently. I saw somebody's comment now that you are seeing drones at events. So now you know that UAV pilots are more than photographers at events. And I look forward to seeing more UAV pilots emerge from this room. Thank you very much. Over to you, Madam Jumoke.
Wow, Bridget, it looks like you were having fun with this, your profession as a drone pilot. Wow. Who wants to be a drone pilot now after hearing Bridget? I surely want to be one. It sounds like so much fun. Thank you, Bridget. And to think your background as a geologist makes you to be a drone pilot. Wow. So let's go to Marietta. Marietta is in the mining industry and she's a recent graduate. Tell us, Marietta, what inspired you to study geology and what keeps you motivated?
Good morning, everyone. Please confirm that you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Good morning, everyone, once again. Thank you so much, Madam Jumoke, for the wonderful question and for the opportunity to be on this panel this morning. I really wish I had someone speak to me about geology before my undergraduate studies, but nevertheless, I thoroughly enjoyed studying geology and I'm now finding great fulfillment in my role as a graduate trainee in the mining industry. Well, I did not know much about geology when I first applied to university. I had initially applied to study another course in a different university, but fortunately or unfortunately, my dad preferred that I school closer to home. So I said to myself, okay, my dad is saying I should change my university. Why not I take the opportunity to change my course too? I remember I stumbled upon one of my teachers in secondary school, and we started talking, and he asked me which of the courses did I apply to study, and I told him how that I wanted to change my course to another course, but I wasn't sure which one I should change to. So he advised me, he said I should check out geology. He spoke briefly about geology and asked me to go and research about the course. And when I did, I was drawn to how connected it is to the earth and its resources. I was amazed. I was like, wow, so this course really does this much. I should be here. So I applied to study geology at Futmina, and fortunately I was admitted. And from that point on, I fell in love with geology. I fell in love with the course. I enjoyed my undergraduate studies, our numerous field works, our numerous site visits. It was an amazing experience overall. So what really keeps me motivated, I think, is the idea of using geology to solve real-world problems, just like Bridget highlighted in her response, using geology to solve real-world problems. And these problems is not just or only in the field of geology. They are interdisciplinary. It cuts across different industries, different sectors. So that is what keeps me motivated. For me, especially, it is finding sustainable energy solutions for our country. Many of us know that Nigeria is grappling with energy poverty. There is light this minute and there is no light the next minute. So for me, it's more like a personal call for me, and I feel like I'm contributing to something much bigger than myself. And that sense of purpose is what drives me every day. Thank you very much, Madam Jumoke. Over to you.
Thank you, Marietta. Wow. Despite not knowing much about geology, I'm glad that when you started out, you stay focused, you gave it your all, and here you are today, starting out as a geologist in the mining industry. Thank you very much. I'm now going over to Blessing, and we want Blessing to tell us which aspect of geology excites you the most, and how are you preparing for a career in your, what field of geology are you preparing for a career on?
Thank you very much, Madam Jumoke. Good morning, everyone. So in my final year, we had this course, petroleum geology, and there was this particular thing that caught my attention. That was seismic interpretation. I loved how challenging it was, how it was fun, actually. Even though we didn't know much, they just highlighted a little bit of what was going on there. So when I wanted to go for NYSC, my school, I graduated from Nnamdi Azikiwe, and I checked it. I said, they didn't give us much here. They tried their best, but we didn't have a lot of equipment. We didn't have a lot of things that was going to help us better in whatever we wanted to do. And I said, okay, I was going to go for a master's degree, but this NYSC period, I wanted to use it to build myself better. Even if I'm going for a master's, I wanted to build myself better, because the undergraduate period, it was not really that nice. So I applied to PTI. And when I got there, I discovered that the school, I understood why the school was named a petroleum training institute, because they have equipment, they have a lot of things, and their lecturers they're something else. So when I got there, I was opportune to meet a lot of people. I got people that were ready to mentor me. Like when I spoke of my interest, I saw people who were like, okay, I can take you up on this, I can take you up on that. And it was very, very nice. It was fulfilling. I was like, at least this 1 year that I am applying for this service, at least I'm getting something good from it now. And since then, I've been there for 6 months, and I can tell you the experience I've gotten from there, like my 4 years in school, I didn't get like that much. But it's so nice to be able to see that, you can have a destination in this geology. Because then in school, a lot of lecturers at a point, they will just say something that will want to discourage you, that you don't know where you're going to. But when I got to this particular place, I saw that there's a lot of opportunities, there are a lot of things that you can do yourself. And the mentors that I am under as a mentee, they are helping me so well. and it's very, very fulfilling. Thank you very much, Madam Jumoke. Back to you.
Wow, blessing. Thank you for sharing your experience. It looks like you had a lot of mentoring at the Petroleum Training Institute, where you are getting ready for a career in petroleum geology, and that will make you end up in the oil and gas companies. Maybe you will like be Madam Dodger Chevron, or like Mr. Jones Bosco, a manager in Shell in a few years. Blessing, we are looking forward to hearing great things about you in the coming years. Thank you for sharing. So let me go over to Aisha now. Aisha is a recent graduate of geology, and Aisha happened to be seeking a specialization in her field of study. And we'll hear more about that and why she wants to specialize by doing additional master's degree program. Aisha, can you tell us a bit about that?
Thank you very much, madam.
It appears we can't hear Aisha. Are you muted?
Can you hear me now?
Okay, maybe increase your volume closer to you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, but a bit more.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, oh yeah, continue, go on.
Thank you very much for joining our webinar. Thank you, Madam Jumoke. So during my
undergraduate, I'm sorry, can anyone else hear Aisha? I hope it's not just me. Okay, Aisha, we can't hear you. Try increasing your volume.
Oh, getting closer to the mic.
Or move
Get
closer to your
to the
computer.
mic.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me now?
Better. Continue.
Better now.
Yes, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our current webinar. Thank you for this opportunity. During my undergraduate days, I developed passion for geology, particularly the earth process. As time went on, we had coursework, fieldwork in hydrogeology, geophysics, and engineering geology. That was when I got the importance of geology in addressing the real world problem. I know most of you would have heard of the recent flooding that is in Nigeria, in places like Maiduguri, Jigawa, and lots more. So as at that time, I noticed a shortfall of expertise in flood management. I mean, if we had more experts in Nigeria in flood management, wouldn't have resulted this. Then I got research about geophysics. I understood that geophysics is better understanding of groundwater movements, soil moisture, and subsurface processes that are essential for accurate flood risk assessment. Then I told myself I have to get a master's degree in geophysics just to get better understanding of flood management. So this geophysics will help me identify prones of flooding areas and optimize flooding defense strategy. So I noticed that the geology, there are so many people that don't know about geology and it's relevant to real world problems. So I aspire to make a safer environment for everyone. Thank you very much. Over to you, madam.
Wow, Aisha, that is so inspiring. So you decided to go on and study and get a master's degree in geophysics as a specialization because you saw the challenges of flooding in the area where you grew up, and you feel that is the best way for you to support and help your society by knowing more about flood management. Is that correct, Aisha? Because
Yes,
I think you were breaking and a lot of people couldn't hear you. So I am trying to repeat what I've heard Aisha say. Thank you so much. A lot of people are saying they could not hear, but I just summarized what Aisha said. She has decided to go on and get a specialization in geophysics, which is another branch of geology. And she wants to have the understanding to help our community manage flood occurrence so that we make our society safer. Isn't Aisha a superhero? I think being a geologist makes you a superhero. Thank you, Aisha, for sharing with us. Before we go to our next panelist, I'm sure you've been hearing all about all these different fields of geology. You probably are wondering that how do you know the different career pathway you need to go to? So let me share with you briefly my personal experience, how I know from undergraduate which part of geology I want to specialize in. I'll say you pay attention to those geology subjects in school that you are doing very well in. So for instance, I had passion for the classes in my geology that are geochemistry related, stratigraphy and sedimentology, paleontology, structural geology. I had passion for that. Even though I was doing very well in all the classes, but I gravitated towards petroleum geology because of the way I love this geology subject. So I found myself in petroleum geology, following my passion for the subject related to petroleum geology. So pay attention to the subject that you are doing very well in, that lights you up. You always love to go to that class. And before you know it, you'll see that maybe it's engineering geology or hydrogeology, or you want to be in the mining industry because you love hard rock so much. So that is one tip I'd like to share with you regarding knowing which specialization of geology you want to go into. So let's go to Olaitan. Olaitan is an early career professional geologist in the petroleum industry. So there'll be a lot of things about global warming, resource sustainability, green energy. So Olaitan, please tell us, how do you see your role as a geologist in addressing these upcoming global challenges we've been hearing about?
All right. Good morning, everyone. Confirm you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Thank you so much, Madam Jumoke, for the question. Okay, so honestly, I believe that geologists are superheroes of our planet. And this is because we understand Earth in ways that allows us to solve a lot of problems like the climate change and this resource sustainability. So I'll just break our roles down into three different aspects. And the first is in terms of awareness. Before you can come up with solutions or innovations, you have to make people aware of what is going on or probably what they are doing that is not right. So geologists help to raise awareness by showing people how their actions are directly impacting the planet. For example, human activities like burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, pollution release of greenhouse gases, the excess use of plastics, that paper, that nylon that you threw inside gutter yesterday, all those cars that are not supposed to be on the road, they are bringing out like very bad exhaust. All these things actually cause global warming and affect the climate. So how geologists get to know this is we study impact by examining the rock layers and also soil samples and atmospheric data. And it helps us to link the past climate shifts to human activities today. You would agree with me that, for example, in Nigeria, when we used to have harmattan, it now seems different. Harmattan has changed. In fact, when rain falls, like it is excess. For example, the flooding that Aisha mentioned, all these are causes, like they are caused due to global warming and change in climate. Then after we have made people to be aware of their actions, geologists now come up with innovations. So that's why I said we are superheroes. We drive innovation, and what we do is that we don't just study these problems. We come up with solutions. Just as Marietta said that she loves the solutions that comes with geology. So I know you'd have heard about Tesla, the electric vehicle, like by Elon Musk. All these are innovations to help us like reduce the climate change, the whole global warming. Another thing that geologists are doing now is we harness geothermal energy. We use the earth heat as a sustainable energy source. So it helps us to reduce the dependence on fossil fuels and cut down greenhouse gases emission. So it's not like we're not going to use oil again. Definitely we would use oil, we use oil and gas, but just a way of reducing the way we use it. For example, I know we all know solar panels. You'll be using like inverters in your house instead of loud generators. You just use the silent inverter and we are all enjoying it. All those things, they are innovations from geologists actually. So all these innovations, help us to manage resources and also protect the planet. And the most interesting part is the CCS, the carbon storage that we now do now. Like that's actually like spot on. It helps us to also manage the planet. So the last one is creating policies. So like one thing I've always heard is that where there is no law, there is no sin. So when we come up with policies, like we working with government and professionals, we come up with several policies that would guide people in making the right decisions, either in mining, either in oil and gas drilling. So all this helps us to manage our resources and also to protect our environment. So for example, after we have analyzed the environmental impact, we will now recommend setting limits on how maybe much water should be used in mining and all those things. So as we do those things, it actually improves our resource sustainability and improves the environment at large. Thank you very much, Madam Jumoke. Over to you.
Wow, Olaitan. It looks like you're enjoying what you are doing. I could hear the passion in your voice. Thank you so
Yes,
much for
ma'am.
sharing with us. Key takeaways from Olaitan for me is that as a geologist, you can never ever run out of jobs. Your skills are transferable into the future. All the skills now that you are using to look for mining rocks and also to look for petroleum and to look for water as hydrogeology, safe drinking water for the community. All these skills are also transferable into clean energy for the future to combat our global challenges. So if anybody tells you that as a geologist, you'll never have a job or these skills are limited, it is not true. You've heard from Bridget, can be a drone pilot using your remote sensing knowledge that you will learn from geology class. I remembered remote sensing class very well in my undergrad. I so loved it. Aerial view of the earth, and we even use it for field study, field work. Instead of going into the field, some areas which are not accessible, you can use the drone technology and look aerially and map out crops. Okay, thank you very much. That was exciting. Before I go to our NAPE president-elect to hear his views on how much the field of geology has evolved since it started out many years ago, I want us to look into the Q&A. Please type in the chat if you are able to see all the questions and answers in the Q&A, and let us know that you are seeing all the answers we are putting there for you. Type in the chat, let us know. Say yes if you can see. Wonderful, wonderful. So we want you to also pay attention there too as you listen and learn from the questions other people are putting there. Okay? All right. And we'll come to the chat to and the Q&A section to take some questions as well. Okay, so Mr. John Bosco, our Honorable President-elect of NAPE. So you've been in the petroleum industry for decades, and you're currently working for an international oil and gas company. And I'm sure a lot of students on this call knows how prestigious that is. Share a little bit of your experience working in that industry with us and how it has evolved since you started out years ago.
Thank you very much, Madam Jumoke. And again, thanks to all the panelists for the excellent experiences already shared up till now. How do I start? Well, let me just step back a little bit. While I was in the secondary school, I had this, just like many of you on the call right now, I've got this drive and passion to really understand what was happening on the subsurface, but I didn't have a clue what that was going to be. I didn't have a clue what I was actually going to study geology at the time. Yes, I studied geography, but I mean, like Madam Doja said, it's more around the environment. But I was thinking about what is really going on the ground that, I just want to know. And even when I wrote my JAM, it wasn't geology I wanted to study at the time. But somehow I find myself studying geology, which is actually what the passion I had while I was in secondary school. And I think I really enjoyed it. And while I was in the university, I had opportunity for my internship to do it with a water borehole drilling company at the time. And one of the joy I derived doing that work was because we had a job we did in Enugu State at the time. So we went to every single local government in Enugu State when the PTF was popular at the time. So they were doing some project in Enugu. And that joy of drilling borehole to provide clean water for every single community, the local woman in the village, to be able to have clean water, you could see the joy. And you can imagine being part of the team that is driving, doing the geophysical survey, drilling those water and getting those water to the community. As a geologist, it's about solving the human needs. So I just wanted to put this background a bit before I come into the petroleum and oil and gas industry. And which, by the way, even when I got my first job in Halliburton, it was that experience I had in water drilling that I used to answer one of the questions I got asked during the interview, because drilling is drilling, right? Drilling is drilling. Whether it's a borehole for water or for oil and gas, is basically the same principle. So I use that same principle I learned in the water borehole drilling to answer the questions, and that was how I got the job, my first job as a graduate in the oil and gas industry. And since then, which is in 2000, so roughly this is the 24th year now, things has really evolved. And one thing that is common and remains steady, irrespective of how things are moving in energy transition or whatever, is that the world cannot just do without us, because we are solving the energy needs of the world. Can you imagine? I know many of you have said it in a way. Can you imagine if there was no petrol fuel to power the vehicle to move from point A to B, or jet fuel to fly from point A to B, or even the ship, the petroleum product they use to move goods from point A to B? You can imagine how this world will be. So it's what we are basically doing is to solve the human needs of the world, and that demand will continue there. Now, things have really evolved. Yes, I know the oil, is polluting the environment, but right now you could see the drive globally to do more of cleaner energy, and gas is what people are really driving to do more. But still, I think Doja mentioned the coal. We started in the past, the oil, but even now gas ramping up, because the petroleum product that comes out of that gas, the plastics, the fertilizer, even the CNG gas, as you see in the country right now, the government trying to use CNG gas to power vehicles. It is still the geoscientists that have to go find that gas. Every single gas or oil you see in this world was found by a geoscientist at some point before you go into the processing. And I'm glad to have been part of that journey, in finding this oil and gas in our industry. Now, I want to end by saying, I think it was the last speaker that mentioned about carbon capture. One thing that has also helped me is, yes, I'm managing the exploration and some development folks in Shell today, but I'm also the business opportunity manager for energy transition for share companies in Nigeria. And you can start asking yourself, what has geology got to do with energy transition? Because energy transition is a bit more holistic view. But when they wanted to appoint someone to do that role, they needed someone that has a bit of some key elements of project management, risk management, uncertainty management, data analysis, and these are the skill set that you have as a geoscientist. Right. And that is exactly what I was able to use into this role for energy transition. In fact, actually, one of the MDs said, they gave you a blank paper, pure white, just go, scribble on it. I had no clue what to do. right, on that job. But it's purely the geology experience that has helped me to be able to get in there and, of course, thrive very well. And the carbon capture that the last speaker mentioned is actually one of them. You know, you need a geoscientist to tell you where to go and store the CO2, because to keep the environment clean, you have to capture the CO2, put it on the ground. But it's a geoscientist that's going to tell you how to do. So even now we're moving in the transition world to make things cleaner, it is still us, the geoscientists, that will make it cleaner. Even including the renewables that was mentioned earlier, the battery. I think again, Madam Doja mentioned in Nigeria, we have lithium deposit in Nigeria. So it is us that's going to go find that lithium to be able to use it for the battery, for the solar, and for the renewable we're doing. So it has been a journey, and to be honest, I've been having fun, and I'm happy that I studied geosciences, and that I can tell you until I retire and move on. In fact, actually, let me give you one story. Something that happened. Today is Saturday, 2 days ago. So I was taking my son to a football game, somewhere, out of the country, and then we are moving. So you see these road cuts, right? And he was just telling me, "How look at these road cuts. You can imagine when they build this road." And I said, "Yeah, that's the stone. That's where we study the rock as well. We like these road cuts so that we're able to see what's happening on the surface, to know what is happening on the ground." So everywhere you move in the environment is all about geology. So let me stop here and back to you, Madam Jumoke.
Thank you so much, Mr. John Bosco. That's a lot of experience and passion coming from you, and I'm sure that our students can understand that, look, as a petroleum geologist, in a few years, this is how you'll be feeling, fulfilled after being in the industry for many years. And look at him, doesn't he look successful? Don't you want to be like him in the future? In fact, let me tell you something funny about myself, how I became a geologist. I just want to be rich. And I know all about geology before I came into it. Let me just tell you the truth. And how did I know this? I'll tell you a fun story. On my street growing up in Ibadan, I had some, we call them area uncles, area brothers, and they always play around the neighborhood. And we were all growing up together, and I was in secondary school, I think about SS2, and looking forward to do WIGE. And then I noticed that all these our area brothers or uncle that went to the university, they all came back, and some of them were, still trying to get jobs, after 1-2 months. And then I saw this particular person already. He has a car, a fine car, looking very successful. So I had to go to him and say, "Where are you working? Didn't you just graduate?" And I see all these other people looking for jobs. He said he finished from University of Ife. It was University of Ife then, now Obafemi Awolowo University. And he's a geologist, a petroleum geologist. I said, wow. So where are you working that you can afford a car already? Yeah, you have all these nice things. He said he works in Halliburton, and his friend, the other friend too that comes to visit him, works in Shell. And I was like, okay, and you're a geologist. You know what? I am going to study this geology. And that's how in my JAM form, I filled in geology because I just want to be successful. I want to be rich like these people. And it's a true story. True, I know geology before going in. And when I came into the department, my HOD asked me that, "Are you sure you know where you are? This is geology. Are you sure?" I said, "Yes, this is geology. I hear that it's mostly for men, but I am here and I want to do geology." I said, okay. And growing up in that, being in that class, there weren't many girls in that class, but over the years, there's been a lot of girls that have started doing geology. And you can see on this call today, there are many female now in geology. In fact, talking about female in geology, we have distinguished member of WIGE on the call, and I want to recognize them. Please pardon me if I cannot identify in the call, but I can see Madam Pat Maselli. She's the first president of Women in Geoscience and Engineering, and she retired from the Department of Petroleum Resources and a renowned female petroleum geologist. If you can unmute Madam Maselli to say something, if she's able to say something. Nape, please unmute Madam Marcelli. Okay. All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, madam. Please go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. And I really want to thank you, the panelists, our guests, speaker, the president of vice president of NAPE, the president-elect of NAPE, Madam Doja, our first female president of NAPE. I'm indeed very pleased with the presentations today and the students, the young ones who spoke. I am really very, very proud of everyone. Everyone is sound. Thank you very much. Geology is interesting, and I did a lot of work in the industry. With geology, I was able to rise to the position of deputy director and head of upstream regulating the oil and gas industry. That was very remarkable. So I encourage everyone to do geology, especially our females. And there's a lot you can achieve, you can grow, you can even grow to become the petroleum minister of the industry. Thank you everyone for attending, and thank you for pushing this envelope to secondary school level. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. M. Good to hear your voice.
Thank you.
Okay. I also want to recognize Mrs. Olajumoke Ajayi. She's also on the call. She's one of our leading female petroleum geologists in the industry. In fact, she leads one of the biggest petroleum industry in Nigeria. And if she is able to say something, please, can you unmute? Madam Ajayi.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Madam Jumoke. And thank you very much for this program. My president, WIGE chairperson, my past president, Mrs. Doja. Thank you very much, our current president-elect, and everyone on the call. I really appreciate this. And the students who are listening, what I want to tell you is that you shouldn't take this for granted. It is an opportunity for you to sit down and think of what you want to become in life so that you can get it right from the beginning. You see, when Madam Jumoke was talking about how she got to know about geology, maybe it happens to all we Jumokes, because when I wanted to study geophysics, I studied applied geophysics both in my first degree and second degree, and I'm currently doing my PhD in geology. So everything is all around geosciences. So when I wanted to study, initially I had wanted to study civil engineering or computer engineering to know, how bridges are built on water, or how the wizardry, behind the construction of computer science, computers and so on. But I went to FUTA for extramural classes, and I saw a guy came to me, and they thought I was a jambite because my first jamb, I wasn't taking for the course I wanted to study in UI. So I went to FUTA for extramural classes for another jamb, and my mother had taken me to the HOD of geophysics department in FUTA to see if FUTA would take me. Then the man said, because they were classmates in primary school, he said, come and study geophysics. When we were going home, I told my mother, I can't study geology and geophysics. I can't be a teacher. I want to study a course that, engineering is what I wanted. So when I was doing the extramural classes, the guy who came to me, he thought I was a jambite. And he said, asked me what I scored in my last jamb. I told him, he said, no, that's a good score. Why are you not in? And I told him this and that. My mom took me to a classmate, the HOD of geophysics department, and that's late Professor Ojo. And he said, I should come and study geophysics. I said, no, I cannot. So then the guy said, do you know what we call them in FUTA? They are called geo-millionaires. I now told him, come on and educate me more. When I had millionaires, so it's a good course, and I couldn't go in again because they've done matriculation at that time. So I wasted that year. Then the guy educated me on the course and all that. And immediately I got my JAM form. I filled FUTA geophysics, applied geophysics first choice, FUTA applied geophysics second choice, and that was how I went in. So, information knowledge is very critical. If I had had that information, before I even went to see the HOD, that would have given me a better understanding. So this is an opportunity for you to understand, because it is a privilege, and it's one I don't want you to take for granted. Now you have a good understanding of what geology is all about, and thanks to Madam Doja, you did an excellent work in giving this information, and all the panelists too, at least young geoscientists, young professionals have just spoken to you. You've heard from them, and that also will encourage you. That I have been in the industry for many years now, and as a lady, a lot, God has helped me to achieve a lot, drilled successful wells, plan wells, and predict where the oil will be found. And the wells have been drilled and all successful. I've been MD in the oil and gas industry, a position that is always exclusively for men. But now a lady has successfully done that. I am also currently MD in another oil company. So it's, if I can do it, you can also get to that point and even surpass it. So I encourage you all to consider studying geoscience courses, and the Lord will help you all in Jesus' name. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. God bless.
Wow, such an inspiring.
Thank you, Madam J.
Thank you so much, Madam Olajumoke. So we, the Olajumokes, we like success stories. So, but I know you too, you like success stories. So get yourself affiliated with geologists, learn more. And I think you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? This is our contact again. wigeforall@gmail.com. Let me know if you can see it. Take down this email address, send us your questions. We are available to help you. Okay, so we are gradually coming to the close of our program. And if there are any questions that you want to ask and has not been answered, please raise your hand. We'll give a few people opportunity to ask questions. Even though in the Q&A, we have been answering those questions. And take a look in there. I can read a few out so that so somehow I cannot see my Q&A again. Let me see. Okay. All right. So any hands raised? So I see Richard Momo raised hand. Let me see if I can enable you to speak. Richard Momo, do you want to ask your question? You've been unmuted to speak. Or NAPE can help to make Richard speak.
Richard, you can
unmute
go ahead,
and
speak.
ask your question.
Unmute and talk.
Okay, I think maybe it's an old, hello, Richard, do you want to ask your question? Okay, let's go to David. David has his hands raised too. David, do you want to ask a question?
Yes, I have a question. Thank you very much. This is Mr. Uguala David from Atlantic Hall School, Ekpe.
Welcome, Mr. David. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. God bless you. My question is this. We've got to know some geography-related courses through the study of geology. And we can get to see that it is quite interesting to study the course that has to do with geography as well as other sciences. Very good one. My little question is this. Please, I want you to digress a bit. Everything is going to the aspect of entrepreneurship this day. I want us to guide our students. They are here with me, close to 20 in this hall here. I want you to give us a kind of insight how to be self-employed in the aspect of study of this course we call geology and geophysics and then engineering courses. How can one be a very big entrepreneur rather than working in some companies already established? Thank God for that. How can we go to the aspect of entrepreneurship? Thank you very much. That's my question. God bless.
Thank you so much, Mr. David. And we want to, before I go to our president-elect of NAPE to help us answer that question, because he's been in the industry and he sees all these things going on. He has great insight into it. And we want to appreciate Atlantic Hall for being on the call and the other schools that we've not mentioned before. We'll go through a roll call shortly. So, Mr. John Bosco.
No, thanks for that very brilliant question, and I think this is actually spot on because in the world we live in today, not even beyond geology, petroleum, oil, and gas, entrepreneurship is what we're supposed to be preaching. Also, letting our younger students to know already that they need to have that spirit of entrepreneurship. So it's good that this question came in on board. So I will answer this in three folds. Number one is to say, even before the young graduates or the young emerging geoscientists begin any entrepreneurship work, even the senior people in the industry are doing it already. I can give you some names. Many senior oil and gas that are members of NAPE, for example, call themselves entrepreneurs. And basically, that's what they do. They start one company, they do well, they start another one, they do well, they start another one. And that's really all about entrepreneurship. So even at the bigger level, it is happening already. But let me bring it down to closer to the question that you're asking. There are a lot of skills or things that are in demand today, right? I see young people that graduate and they go straight into borehole drilling, for example. They start, in a small scale, they just, do some geophysical surveys. They begin to acquire some equipment. They do a bit of partnership. And then before you know what's happening, they grow into a real big business. And you don't necessarily need to have worked for anybody to go into that business of water borehole drilling. That is one example and one area you can go into. There are people that I've seen as well that study environmental geology, for example. And today, for every oil and gas activity you have to do, you have to conduct what we call environmental impact assessments. And sometimes it could be some people in the university. It can also be some consultants that are consulted to go and do this, to go to the field, take sample, and then conduct these surveys. So you don't necessarily need to have been working in the oil and gas industry to be able to start that work. So it's about studying the environmental geology, partnership with some people, going to pick sample, do some lab work, analysis, and then come up with that report. That's another way you can come into that entrepreneurship type of work. Then also in the solid mineral that was also shared today, right? There's a lot of people that are doing business around it. It's all about business. So, because again, entrepreneurship is also about business. So you can own your business and do some consulting and also be able to advise and go into the professional way of doing oil and mining, which is different from the quack. People that just go in there without the knowledge. The same thing for the water borehole that I mentioned. Some people don't even understand the geology and they just go in there. But if you're a geoscientist and you go into that professionally, I can tell you easily, you can actually excel. So these are a few examples I want to give. But again, even for those that are already working in oil and gas industry, like myself, like Madam Doja, like Madam Jumoka, and any other person, many people, after having acquired some experience, they leave, they retire to go and start their own business. And we have too many of such examples today. Even actually, Madam Jumoke that spoke earlier, who is the MD of one of the rising companies in Ingencia, right? I mean, these are some of people that are also coming, start up some business. So you can do it while you're already active to start a new business based on the skills and experience you've gained. But also, even before being in the oil and gas industry, you can actually start it from the outside and then run your business and still be successful. I hope this provides some insight in terms of that entrepreneurship spirit that is required.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Noted for progress. God bless.
Thank you. It's a great question, and I hope you've had your question answered. And we also encourage our students have the entrepreneurship spirit. There's so many opportunities out there. So like I said, we are gradually coming to the end of our
I think Madam Jumoke wanted to add something. I see her hand is up.
Yes, go ahead, Madam Jumoke.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, my PE. In addition to what you said, what I just want to chip in is this. If you want to go into your own business, it's always better to have an experience, from those who have done it before. So you can't just graduate and start your business like that. It will be a bit rough. So if you go in and you may decide to give yourself like 3 years to work, to gain the experience, to understand the structure, to understand how things are done before you now go fully into yours. So for instance, even if you finish and you don't get a job, you can volunteer to work with companies and just tell them, okay, you can just pay me, or you may not pay me. I will find my way to take care of my transportation, but you know what you are trying to do. You're trying to gain experience. So give yourself 1 or 2 years to gain experience before you go into your business. For instance, P mentioned borehole drilling. You can work with a borehole company for some years before now going into your own. So in a nutshell, what I just want to add to what the PE said is try to gain some experience so that you go in and get it right from the beginning. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Jumoke.
Thank you, Madam Olajumoke Ajayi. I hear you there promoting the training and apprenticeship period that many professions benefit from before they start out, even as individual entrepreneurs. In my NYSC years, I used that period to gain a lot of experience working for Cisco Geological Services before I now venture out professionally. So that's apprenticeship period could also be your NYSC period. So take advantage of it. Don't let that 1 year waste, and try and get as many experience that you can to get yourself settled as well set up later. So we are gradually coming to an end of our program, and I really want to appreciate everybody for being with us still and staying focused. We hope you've taken a lot from today. Like I said, look on the screen. We have wige4@gmail.com. You can reach us by this email. And before I go to Madam Adedoja Ojelabi to close out for us, I want to acknowledge these schools that are present on the call. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you for coming up this early morning. We want to thank all the individual parents and students that also signed up. In fact, we can't just wait to hear your success stories in future. And it could be you on our panelists in future talking about your career in geology and your success stories like you've heard today. People who are now industry directors, managers that are successful in their careers of geology. So we want to welcome Atlantic Hall. We want to acknowledge you, Saroja Manus, Trinity International College, Gliston International Academy, Abuja, Pine Manor, Alvan International School, BIS, British International School, Precious Seed School, Bright Sun College, Favor Group of Schools, Champions of Faith, Academy in Port Harcourt, and finally, Clemson College. If for some reason I'm missing your school and you're on the call and you've not put the name of your school here, please put it right there in the chat. Let's acknowledge you. Let's hear from you. Which school is here and we did not hear their name? Maybe when we asked for schools to be mentioned, you weren't on the call yet. Okay, looks like we got most of our schools acknowledged. Thank you, everyone. Now let's close out. Madam Doja, over to you.
Thank you very much, Madam Jumoke, for an excellent job and excellent facilitation of an excellent session today. We're really thankful for the opportunity to interact with everyone, students, teachers, parents, professionals, and our colleagues in the industries, and our geoscience colleagues as well. I think this has been a fantastic day, and I have also learned a lot. I just love the session, hearing about the drone. It continues to excite me, the new fields and the new things that are happening, just because, technology is changing lives and making us do things that before we never could imagine happening. And I'm sure that, even if it's just one or two people on this call, students that have been encouraged to consider a career in geoscience, by the time you're out of university, the whole field could have changed, because technology keeps changing and making things, things that we could some of those things is just imagination right now, that by the time you're done could become a reality. So I'm going to encourage you, if you have identified with some of the things we spoke about, think about a career in geoscience. I can assure you that it's something that you're going to love, and I'm praying for you that you will be successful. I want to thank our colleagues, Madam Jumoke, Madam Pat, and very sincerely thank the President-elect of NAPE, Mr. John Bosco Uche. Thank you for the time you spent. For all the ladies of WIGE, Madam Jumoke, thank you for an excellent job. For all our young geosciences, Aishat, Olaiton, Bridget, Marietta, thank you for sharing your experience and sharing that for for the benefit of the young and upcoming, and the young at heart, actually. If you are a WIGE person, please, just send a thumbs up. We're acknowledging you and thanking you for joining. Thank you. And so this has come to a close, but please feel free to invite WIGE. Talk to NAPE if you would like us to come to your school, or you'd like us to do another session. We'd be very happy to do this. And so I'm just going to say thank you for the opportunity you have given me today to share. And back to you, Madam Jumoke.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Thank you so much, Madam Doja. I was so excited. I didn't want this to end, I've been having so much fun, and I know that the students too are having fun. Our wonderful panelists, we want to thank you all. You've been inspiring. We want to thank Mr. John Bosco, our male advocates for WIGE, and incoming NAPE president. We want to thank you. Like Madam Doja said, all WIGErians, thumbs up. We acknowledge you all in the chat. Thank you to all the attendees. As every good things, move to the next phase. It doesn't end. So we hope to hear your success stories. Send us email. Let us know when you end up in that geology role. Share your success story with us, and we'd like to share it with other people coming up. So bye-bye, everybody. We hope to see you in the future. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, and bye.